What's up with Scroom? It's such a unique looking race, yet it's so bad for combat. It's TheRealPunchee, and today I'm going to share my opinion on why Scroom is not optimally designed and how it could be improved for the better. Although they are a wonderful display of Rogue Lineage's lore, the race is quite underwhelming and could be improved. Also, I really want to see what ideas I can come up with that can be developed for the races I'm interested in. Of course, I know many players love Scroom, and so do I, but I believe it is universally known that Scrooms are not powerhouses or meta at all. Let's talk about what Scrooms do and their history of buffs and nerfs. I'm going to be talking about Scroom as a whole because from what I can notice, Scroom and K is identical to Scroom and Gaia, so there's no point in separating the two. Also, I saw Rookie Ethnic in ABA a while ago, and it inspired me to make this video in order for Prince Pinky the Scroom to return to his former glory. Nobody took Scroom seriously, and they still really don't. I believe that the developers have shot themselves in the foot if they want Scrooms to be, well, equal to any other of these races because they've designed Scrooms to be disposable. No other race I know is used for its utility as much as Scrooms. Scroomville, as it is very unique and an interesting location for lore, is negative for a Scroom's fear factor. In fact, everybody back in the day saw Scrooms as resources just because of this. Scroomville, they spawn there. You grip them and they'll always spawn there, so you can always keep gripping them for chaotic. You could also get XP from Scrooms while they were decomposing, but that was changed. The only reason to have a Scroom account would to be farming on other accounts for your XP, chaotic, rots, or tomeless. If there was a global statistics databank, which I've asked Arch about, I'm fairly certain that Scrooms have been killed the most. So somebody that's a dev or a mod, please confirm this. I know Arch said he did not have access, but I believe that Scrooms have been gripped the most. To make things even worse, Scrooms used to be smaller than any other race, portraying them as weaker. Majoration shifters that became Scroom would shrink to their size as well. I think that they have the same hitbox but just appear to be smaller, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Luckily, this was changed in a later update, so if you're a Scroom, you're the same height as anybody else. So, since the release of the Scroom, the developers have been fighting an uphill battle to make Scrooms feel viable. Pretty much, having a Scroom, you're using it for its utility or you're using it to become Metal Scroom, which again, is not the topic of this video. Scroom abilities. Scrooms will spawn in Scroomville. As mentioned earlier, they will continue to spawn here until they set their spawn elsewhere. Scroomville is difficult to enter if you are a fresh spawn, as it is surrounded by poison fields and has many cliffs to climb. Also, bonus points for having my favorite music, which is in Scroomville. Luckily, Scrooms also have passive abilities to be immune to injuries like broken ribs and have poison immunity as well as a poison damage buff. It's really good that they're immune to poison because entering Scroomville, it's going to be a little bit difficult if you're not immune to poison. Having injury and poison immunity is definitely not bad, but the circumstances of these coming up in battle are a little bit too specific for me. As you can see here, I'm being hit by Oni moves and I'm still not breaking any bones. This is really nice if you're on the defensive because you're not going to be losing a battle just because of a broken leg or an arm. You're going to be good on that front. Their second passive, being immune to poison. So as you can see, this Druid is using his poison moves on me and I'm immune to them. Poison immunity is great, and definitely it's a buff if you're going to be going a tanky class. It just is very unfortunate that Scroom is just terrible in combat, so although this buff is nice, it doesn't really come into play as much as you'd think. Some interesting things for Scroom that are more lore related is their innate ability to talk to Scrooms. Usually you would have to go to Sentinel and buy a book from the librarian on Scroom speech to talk to the Scroomville NPCs, but Scrooms have this off the spawn, which I believe is a great touch for lore. Scroom is also unable to go vampire and cannot eat any food. They will regenerate their food with one of their other abilities, so I think that a vampire Scroom would be a little bit too strong. Because of these weird food restrictions, vampires actually cannot feed on Scrooms and end up getting poisoned instead by their toxic green blood. This is an interesting thing to note, so vampires should not be messing with you and trying to feed on you if you are a fresh spawn Scroom. According to the Rogue Lineage wiki, Scrooms actually run out of hunger 1.5 times slower than any other race. I'm not sure if this is true, but I've never really noticed this in actual game. Alright, onto the abilities. Scroom also has the toolbar ability on spawn called Decomposed. When using Decompose, you must be on top of grass and you will stay stationary as you shrink into the ground. When you're in the ground, you cannot move and you'll begin to heal and regenerate your hunger at an increased rate. This is the only way you can regenerate hunger as a Scroom. Also, something to note is when you're decomposed, your armor, weapons, and name will be hidden when your head is protruding out of the ground. This works as a pseudo camouflage. If you stay very still and you do not have a helmet on, you'll blend right in. If you're day 0, you'll be able to decompose on wood and grass, fabric and sand on day 2, stone on day 5, and slate and sandstone on day 8. On day 10, you will actually gain an extra toolbar which is called Detoxify. This skill is similar to the Metal Scroom ability called Exhaust, as it shoots out poison, and it knocks your opponent back while popping you out of Decompose. It's kind of buggy and difficult to use, but it is nice to edgeguard if you're in a safe position. As a final synopsis of Scroom, you're pretty much a utility race that has a lot of interesting abilities that hardly improve in combat capability. If you end up beating anybody, it will most likely be due to your skill, so that's a bonus. In this game, skill is very important for sure, but if people are going to be playing meta races, that's up to you if you want to handicap yourself. Now on to the reworks. Similar to my Veined rework video, I'll be talking about simple reworks that can make the rest less janky to play, and then I'll move on to major ability changes. Some quality of life changes that could be considered are condensing, decompose, and toxify. Instead of having two different moves in your toolbar, you could click M2 while in a decomposed state to trigger the toxify effect. This would make it easier, and it would not require you have the skill Toxify in your toolbar, which would make it a little bit easier to use in a combat situation. Also, some other things that could be added to Toxify. If you do end up shooting the poison after using Toxify, maybe it could reduce your toxic bar, which is your potion bar. A little bit easier to use potions as Scrooms. One more thing. Decomposing is also super duper buggy. I'm not sure what happened, but I swear this thing has always been the root of many issues. Sometimes you'll be stuck in the floor, shot by an AA gun, or even bugged by your animations. I know this is not really rework, but it really needs to be fixed. Now on to my original ideas. My first idea is the addition of a digging feature onto Decompose. After you're in the ground of the initial M1 of Decompose, you can click M2 of Decompose to dig in a straight line, and click it again to exit. While moving underground, the Scroom's head will not be visible, but the ground will shift in a visible manner. While underground, the Scroom will be moving at a basic sprint speed and cannot be removed by any light attacks. If you use a move that can ragdoll, such as an M2 or Armis, this will remove the Scroom from underground. The last part of the digging ability could be modifiers I have come up with. To end your dig, you must click Decompose M2 again, or Toxify. If you click Decompose M2, you will shoot out of the ground with an uppercut that can hit the enemy. If you click Toxify while being in the ground, you will shoot out with the Toxify Poison Blast instead. If Decompose M2 is used after being in the ground, the Scroom will jump out faster with less end lag at the cost of damage. When Toxify is used instead, the Scroom will be in hyper armor, yet will move slower. Also, bonus damage from this move due to the poison. Let's see how this animation looks for the ideas. So as you can see in these first clips, they are digging through the ground in the same way and popping out in an ambush style attack. I really wanted these Scrooms to have a capability where they could ambush people, because I think, you know, because they're not very strong in combat, at least they should get the drop on an enemy, right? And you can see in one of these clips, he's ending it with the Decompose M2, which is the uppercut, and in the other one, he's ending it with the Poison Blast. I know it wasn't fully shown, I wasn't animating it to the best I could, but it's just a concept idea. Of course, if this is a little bit overpowered, it is susceptible to change. Again, these are just ideas I've come up with. I don't expect reworks to actually happen. Alright, moving on to the next. This move would be the final progression of Scroom, and it's something very unique in my opinion. This move is called Fungdead Wrath, because I need to make Scroom sound scary somehow, you know? At a whopping day 25 requirement, the Scroom will transform into an uncontrollable Room Berserk-esque zombie Scroom for 60 whole seconds after being gripped. And when I say gripped, I mean somebody needs to press B on you and grip you. This does not trigger if an axe kick occurs, or if you're burned to death, or even if you fall off a cliff. While in the zombie Scroom mode, it will only lock on and only attack the person that has gripped them. If the incapable zombie Scroom AI kills the person who gripped them, the Scroom will respawn where the zombie Scroom is with their life restored. Of course, the entire time the player will be able to see through the eyes of the zombie Scroom for the duration. 1 day cooldown for this too. Also, this ability was inspired from my Dorohedoro character. For those who know, you know what I'm talking about. On to the ability showcase. It may be a little bit hard to tell, but as you can see, the Scroom is being gripped and is respawning as this NPC zombie Scroom. Pretty much it's uncontrollable, and it's just going to target onto that person that's gripped them, and if they do end up killing them, they will respawn with their life restored. Well, these are the end of my original ideas. Of course, I think Scroom is a little bit underpowered. It is very difficult to buff this race just because it's supposed to be common. It's supposed to be interesting in the fact that it's a lore race, but it's not supposed to be something that people are going to be spending money on. Anyway, all of these ideas that I've come up with, these are my own. Of course, some people have helped me, and I'm not saying that I'm fully responsible for all of these ideas. I'm just saying this is just my opinion, so don't take it as a fact. If you think Scroom is busted right now, I mean, that's good for you. But in my opinion, I believe it should be changed, maybe be a little bit more unique. Again, if these abilities seem a little bit overpowered, I am just trying to cause some conversation, trying to get people to talk about possible ideas for Scroom, so yeah. Of course, if you did enjoy this content, make sure to reach out on Discord, like and subscribe to these videos, and comment down below what you think Scroom should be reworked with. Of course, if you do have any criticism, make sure to voice your opinion, because I would like to see some conversation. Thank you guys, and have a nice day.
I miss the old Punchy, straight outta cash Punchy, dug it merge Punchy, on his grind Punchy. I hate the new Punchy, the low views Punchy, the always lose Punchy, selling in twos Punchy. I miss the meek Punchy, helping the seas Punchy. I gotta say, at that time I'd like to meet Punchy. See, I invented Punchy, it wasn't any Punchy, and now I look around and there's so many Punchy. I used to love Punchy, I used to love Punchy. I even had the taped up headset, thought I was Punchy. What if Punchy made a video about Punchy? But I miss the old Punchy, man that'd be so Punchy. That's all it was Punchy. We still love Punchy, and I love you like Punchy loves Punchy.